Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right in because today we are dissecting an absolute masterclass in suspense. We're looking at a deeply unsettling tale from Mumbai's infamous Aarey colony, and we're going to explore exactly how a simple, everyday situation can be twisted into an absolute nightmare.
So, picture this for a second. Have you ever taken a wrong turn into a nightmare? Just imagine yourself driving late at night. You're completely exhausted. The roads are entirely empty. The whole city has basically gone to sleep. And suddenly, you realize the path you're on is leading you straight into absolute, suffocating darkness. Well, that incredibly relatable, deeply isolating feeling is exactly the foundation our story is built upon. It taps right into our universal fear of the unknown and that sudden loss of control when we find ourselves completely alone in the dark.
Right off the bat, we start our analysis with a classic, time-tested horror trope, the innocent setup. Our protagonist is this hard-working rickshaw driver named Mohan. He's had a really great day, made some good money, and he tells himself, just one more last trip and then I'll go home. It's that one final fare. He picks up a lone young woman named Resma, who's just standing quietly by the side of the road in the freezing fog. I mean, it seems so mundane, right? But if you know anything about urban legends, that phrase, just one last trip, is essentially a giant countdown to disaster.
Now, when Reshma requests to be dropped off at Aarey Colony, Mohan is instantly terrified, and for very good reason. See, Aarey Colony isn't just your average patch of trees. In the context of Mumbai, it is this massive, dense, pitch-black forest slapped right in the middle of a bustling metropolis. But more importantly, it's literally the epicenter of the city's darkest folklore. We're talking notorious for ghostly sightings, strange disappearances, and the terrifying local lore of a headless woman wandering the roads at night. So just hearing the name Aarey Colony instantly cranks up the stakes of the entire story.
Let's actually map out the escalation of this terrifying journey. Notice how incredibly fast the timeline progresses here. At midnight, it's just a quiet, totally normal pickup. But fast forward at 12:15 a.m., and Reshma insists he take a sharp left turn. It's a forced detour right into the heart of the forest. By 12:30 a.m., they are deep into the Aarey jungle. The bustling, brightly lit city of Mumbai is completely gone, totally replaced by towering black trees and deafening silence. It just shows how rapidly an ordinary ride transforms into this claustrophobic trap where Mohan is both physically and psychologically cornered.
And then, the environment itself literally turns against him. The temperature drops below freezing. Really put yourself in Mohan's shoes for a second. How would you react if you were locked in a small, open-air vehicle and the air around you unnaturally turned to ice? The source material describes Mohan sweating profusely from fear, even as the air turns freezing cold around him. It's wild. This environmental shift is a huge signal to us and to Mohan that they have officially crossed the threshold from the natural world straight into the supernatural.
This brings up a brilliant illustration of the psychological warfare happening inside that tiny rickshaw. On one side, we have Mohan. He is sweating, his hands are trembling on the handlebars, he's gripping the wheel with white knuckles, absolutely consumed by visceral human panic. And on the other side, we have Reshma. She exhibits this eerie, statue-like stillness. When Mohan checks his rearview mirror, she's just staring back at him with red, unblinking eyes. No heavy breathing, no movement. That wild juxtaposition of his chaotic terror against her supernatural calmness, that's exactly what generates that skin-crawling tension.
So that excruciating tension finally snaps with a single, deafening command. Mohan is desperate, begging her to let him turn around, pleading that he has a wife and kids waiting for him. And Reshma violently screams, "Keep driving quietly." The sheer force of her voice literally shakes the entire rickshaw. This isn't just a request anymore. It's a terrifying mandate that totally strips away the last of Mohan's free will, forcing him deeper into a forest where the only sounds are the howling wind, crying souls, and the growls of unseen beasts.
Now that she has him trapped on this dark road, she really starts to dismantle his sanity. To make matters way worse, Reshma begins whispering horrific local legends from the back seat, intentionally planting seeds of dread into his already fragile mind. Her psychological torture is so methodical, she casually tells tales of wandering, vengeful souls. She brings up a previous rickshaw driver who came down this exact road and vanished without a trace. And most chillingly, she describes a crying woman with no face who asks for help at 2 a.m. She is literally weaponizing the very folklore that Mohan is already terrified of.
Okay, so just when you think Mohan might actually die of fright, the landscape breaks. Finally, the rickshaw pulls up to this dilapidated, decaying building with a broken sign reading Summit Apartments. There's only a single light on in the entire structure. But honestly, despite how creepy it looks, reaching a physical destination seemingly ends the nightmare. The engine idles, the ride is over. For a brief moment, the narrative allows us, and Mohan, to finally exhale and release all that built-up tension.
But wait, here is where the story pulls off a truly brilliant narrative pivot, the cruel fake-out. Reshma steps out, looking completely normal. She pays the fare just like any ordinary passenger would. And then she smiles and claims she was just bored. She admits that her unblinking stare, the creepy stories, the screaming, she made the whole shebang up as a practical joke to pass the time on a dark ride. It's an unbelievable shift in tone. The supernatural threat instantly dissolves into a cruel, very human prank.
So the crucial point is what happens next. Think about it. You would completely expect Mohan to be furious, maybe curse at her, but ultimately feel profoundly relieved and speed away back to the safety of the city, right? Instead, the narrative abruptly shifts the power dynamic again. Mohan doesn't get angry, his panic entirely vanishes. He looks at her and deadpans that he, too, is a longtime resident of this haunted forest. Suddenly, the victim is way too calm.
And then, the true horror unfolds. Mohan recounts his own history on these very roads. He tells Reshma about a night years ago when he took a passenger into Aarey colony. And just like the stories say, he got lost in an endless, repeating jungle loop. Every turn brought him back to the same broken streetlight. Then, he actually encountered the legendary headless woman standing in the road. In absolute panic, he swerved his rickshaw into a massive tree. The grim truth? He died instantly as twisted metal pierced his chest. He never made it out alive.
This twist hits like an absolute freight train. The man we've been rooting for, the terrified victim we've been totally empathizing with for this entire explainer, is a ghost. He suddenly grabs Reshma's hand with an icy grip. His face, which was previously dripping with fear, twists into this sinister, unnatural smile as he utters this unforgettable, chilling line. Now, is it my turn to be scary? The tables haven't just turned. They've completely flipped into another dimension.
As a cold wind suddenly howls and dead leaves swirl around them, the supernatural reality really sets in. Mohan reveals his ghostly rules, and they are genuinely fascinating. See, he wanders the roads at night, appearing as a completely normal working driver. If a passenger is polite, innocent, and just needs to get home, he drops them off safely. No harm done. But he traps those who try to play cruel, wicked games with him. He explains that Reshma's mean-spirited prank hasn't just backfired, it has sealed her permanent fate in the dark depths of the jungle.
Which brings us to this bone-chilling declaration. I am part of this jungle now. This final definitive statement from Mohan serves as the ultimate punchline of this urban legend. It completely recontextualizes the entire story we just went through. Every single moment of his fear was either a deliberate test for Reshma or an echo of his own tragic death. By stating he's part of the jungle, he confirms that the hunter has instantly and irreversibly become the hunted.
Wrapping up this explainer, you really have to marvel at the mechanics of the storytelling. The brilliance of this double twist, where the suspected monster is just a cruel human and the helpless victim is the actual supernatural entity, it leaves a huge lasting impact. It forces us all to ask, who is the real passenger in your rearview mirror? It leaves us looking over our shoulders, wondering if the people we meet in the dark are truly who they seem to be. Thanks for exploring this legend with us.